Here we go. All right, guys, I think it's time that we admit that the King James Bible has a huge mistake in it. I'm not saying that there is one, but there's a huge debate, and I deeply appreciate what a lot of people have done as far as defending its translation of Acts 12:4 being Easter instead of Passover. I appreciate it, and I understand where they're coming from. There's a couple of questions, though, that I have in my mind. I'd like to make you guys aware of them, and if you guys have answers, let me know. But tonight, we're going to be getting our thinking caps on, thinking a little bit outside the box. There's also a lot of apologetics this time of year relating to the resurrection of Christ, and I think in the light of conspiracy, it may be time to rethink our defense of the gospel. First, I'm sorry to break it to you, but there is a conspiracy that is undermining Christianity and our civilization at this very moment, and it's working through the modern Bible translation controversy. Hi, my name's Joseph Armstrong, and welcome to the Bible Version Conspiracy. We're building a search engine through YouTube, through our website, BibleVersionConspiracy.com, that is going to expose, it's not only going to expose the conspiracy behind the modern Bible translation controversy, it's also going to seek to answer the hard questions about the King James Bible, its history, and its supernatural character. If you care to join us on a deeper level, go right ahead down to the description, hit that subscribe button first, and then check out our members program and the benefits that come along with it, and see if it's worth it to you. $7 a month, I would deeply appreciate it. And yeah, we're getting into some heavy stuff these days. So, I'm working on something a little bit big for people that don't subscribe to New Age Bible versions and people that do. It's going to be pretty interesting. So, at this point, it is not ready, but it's coming soon. So today we're going to be talking about something that I am actually less prepared for, which is okay because it's an oldie but goodie, and something that we are fairly familiar with. It is the controversy surrounding the translation Easter in Acts 12, verse 4. The verse reads, now this is in the context of Herod arresting Peter. It is Acts 12:4. It says, and when he had apprehended him, that is Peter, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. Now, this is a controversy because the word behind Easter is the same word that is translated as Passover in every other place in the King James Bible. It seems, from what I understand from Bible translation history and from even modern day, the Greeks referred to apparently Passover and Easter both by the same word, which is pasca. And in the Bible, in Luther, in Tyndale, they would translate pasca as Easter sometimes, and sometimes as Passover. King James Bible dumped all those other times, but kept Easter on Acts 12:4, the only place that it appears in the King James Bible. Most people don't even know that the word Easter is in the Bible, and those who don't think that it's probably all over the Bible because they never read their Bible. They just go to church on Easter and they figure it's in the Bible somewhere, which is really, really sad. So we're going to be taking a walk down nostalgia lane. Please forgive the spelling of nostalgia if it's not correct. I'm sorry, but we're going to hopefully trigger your nostalgia and your critical thinking tonight if you are aware of this controversy. So, modern scholars feel the translation debate is over because all the Easter eggs have been found. KJV only authors follow the bunny trail, adhering to the KJV rendering pasca as Easter in only one place. Here are all the articles in one bucket. Now, I meant to say basket, but because, Easter basket. So we have 4 articles that I was able to drum up. There is the KJV Today article, which is pretty good. The main logic behind the translation of Easter in this passage is because it was apparently, it was, according to the Bible, it was during the days of unleavened bread. You read the rest of chapter 12 and you'll figure that out. So since it was the days of unleavened bread, that means that the main day of Passover was past. Because Passover comes at the beginning of, I believe, a 2-week period, if I'm not mistaken. And if Passover had passed and it was the days of unleavened bread, then if Pasca's in the passage, then it most likely means Easter because Passover was already passed. So that's the logic, and apparently the logic of the King James Bible translators as well. So I have 4 articles, like I said. One's by KJV Today, which I believe is by a guy named John Word, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Easter is correct in Acts 12:4 by Will Kinney. He was just on with Nick Sayers today. Acts 12:4 After Easter by Dr. Thomas Holland from his book called Crowned with Glory. If you click that link, you can check it out on Amazon and purchase a copy if you feel you would like to. Isn't Easter a mistranslation of Pascha, and should it be translated as Passover? By Sam Gipp. That's from his book, The Answer Book, the blue one. I believe there's also an Answer Book 2, which is, I think, is a different color. So here's here's the thing. This is one of the reasons why we made this channel. First, I want to expose the conspiracy that I believe is behind the modern Bible translation controversy. We've talked about evidences that exceed King James only arguments, such as the New Order of Barbarians, the Jesuit conspiracy by Jacopo Leone, different things like this that demonstrate that there is a conspiracy. And where is the best place to find a conspiracy? Evidence of a conspiracy? I think that it would be among the people that believe there is a conspiracy and are researching it all the time. So you would expect to see it among the ranks of people like Gail Ripplinger, Tex Mars, people like that, Bill Schneblin. So I'm kind of picking up there, making something that is niched in to this idea of a Bible version conspiracy, and we're not coming at it from a perspective of the King James Bible has to be right, therefore the data must answer to that presupposition. I'm not going to sit here and say the King James Bible is correct and then see something that's like, oh my, oh well, I'm just not going to talk about that. That can't be true. Here's the deal. If I do that, it's doing a disservice to you because you're not getting the full story. And also, it doesn't help people that can come into that and go, actually, here's how it makes sense. Here's this bit of history. Here's this Greek, dictionary. Here's whatever. And actually justify the reading. And then be like, oh, wow, that's actually correct. Because if I'm hiding something like that, then that keeps me from being able to do the best job that I can, and it keeps you guys ill-informed, which I think is very sad to do. Here's what I have in my mind. One of the big things with Sam Gipp, he used to say that, Pasca should be Easter because it's how the King James has it, and Pasca is legitimately translated Easter. He has a whole series on just the word Easter that I have to dig back up. It used to be on Sermon Audio, I believe. It's probably on some old website too as well. I've got to dig that back up and get it into the shop. So once I have that prepared, I'll have it in a file at our Buy Me a Coffee shop so you guys can pick that up. The link will be in the description. So let me add that. Sam Gipp sermon package or shop. And that's going to be add. All right. So one of the big things that he took away was there was an old Greek guy, like a Greek from Greece, that had spoken Greek all of his life. And he was there listening to Sam Gipp talk about this translation thing. And his presentation's over. People are milling around, talking to each other. This guy comes straight up the aisle towards Sam. And he says, he comes up and he's just like, this guy looked like he was going to crawl up one side of me and down the other. Prove me wrong, stomp on my face, whatever. So the old Greek gets up there to him and he says, I was born in Greece. I was raised in Greece. I have spoken Greek all of my life. And when we said Easter is coming, we said Pascha. So that settled it for Sam that Pascha is indeed legitimately translated as Easter, or can be, which obviously, duh. Martin Luther did it. William Tyndale did it. I'm not up on the passages that did. Maybe we'll have that ready for next Easter. We'll see. Maybe we'll have it before then. We're going to be adding things to the website. Right now, I have actually 2 blank sections on this web page. Down, I'm going to scroll. Down, where is it? There's that one. We've got a lot of stuff on this page that we've added just recently. So, where are my blank sections that I'm talking about? Oh, there we go. See? I've got some blank areas that still need something crammed into them. And what's going to happen here is I'm going to get those kind of details and put them in these areas. I'm going to add Luther and Tyndale Easters to web page. Alrighty. So I'll remember to do that. So here we go. Back on track. Matthew Henry, I looked up this evening, and one of the big arguments, well, not one of the big arguments, but one of the big points that people make is, why would Herod care about a Jewish feast? Why on earth would he wait until after Passover? It makes no sense. Why would he do that? I've never heard somebody address the statements by Matthew Henry about why he would have waited. Remember, he was trying to please the Jews. We're going to read Matthew Henry's statement here in a second. But first, a word. You stop looking at that. A word from tonight's sponsor, which is the Bible Version Conspiracy Library. Once it loads, my internet and my computer both hate me. If you ever feel led to do so, our technology sorely needs to be upgraded. And if you would like to contribute to that, you can check out our Buy Me a Coffee link and go to our wish list, and you can contribute there. So far, we have $40 out of about 3,000, but that's okay because it's a start, and I appreciate it. I am very thankful to the people that have donated to that. So we're going to go to library, and we're going to go to present, and we're going to stop sharing this screen. And we're going to share a different one. Present. I'm going to work on the seamless transitions between what I'm saying and the sponsor stuff. Pre-record them, put them in the brand, and then just play them, and have no load times like this, because they are not stellar, to say the least. All right, here we go. Yeah. I'm able to scroll on my laptop right now, but it hasn't hit the phone yet. There we go. Alrighty then. Get back up to the top. Tonight's live stream is sponsored by the Bible Version Conspiracy Library. We're adding books to this all the time. We have a master list, which is available right here, where you can search all the books that we've mentioned. We are going to be including titles and affiliate links to Amazon and other such places where you can pick up copies of the books that we have. So there is a section on apologetics and cults. There's one on art and design, conspiracy, Contra, KJV only authors, Bible history, and King James only topics. So, for instance, if you want to shop apologetics and cults, click that button, and it takes you to the apologetics and cults section. We have Robert Schaeffer's 1666, Redemption Through Sin, which talks about the formation of the Jacobins and the Illuminati. Book of Enoch, which I think is a pretty interesting book, translated by Ken Johnson. Just all kinds of things. This one would be useful for the people that fight against the radical Hebrew roots movements. And it really has a fantastic expose of these different things. A book on ancient paganism by Ken Johnson. I'm sure that would be a great tool for witnessing to witches and sorcerers and people like this that just scoff at the Bible and don't know what's actually going on. Cults in the Trinity, so much these days that is needed. Demonic Gospels with the lost books. The Gnostic roots of Roman Catholicism. Now, that's one that everybody should have. And it's going to be coming into play on tonight's stream. talk about that in a bit. So just all sorts of good books that will help you guys as you combat, as you even have a curiosity yourself as to what's going on. And you can go back to search by topic as well. So say you want to go back up to a different section. There's that little button underneath all of them, and you can go right back to search for a book. So you can go to, let's go to anti-KJV only authors. There we go. And these are all books that I own. All the ones that have a photograph, I took this picture, and it's on my shelf right now. So that's where these all come from. If you want to pick up any of these books, if there's any that you're not aware of, if you are a collector like myself of books that are written against King James onlyism, then feel free to check out that collection. There's Bible history, which there are so many books about that I have. Just amazing stuff. And each one, we have a quote. So we learn from history that we do not learn from history. That's a quote from George Hegel. I like the one for conspiracy. This is from Joseph Finder. As the saying goes, not every conspiracy is a theory. And also the Joker, trust no one except Batman. There was one more, Cults and Apologetics. That one I liked too. Actually, I like all of them. That's why I put them on here. Jim Jones, I might be your best friend and you don't even know it. Yeah, we'll talk about him at some point here on this channel. Contra King James onlyism, in case you're like, oh, I would never buy one of their books. George Bernard Shaw, not a great guy, but he makes a good point. The moment we want to believe something, we suddenly see all the arguments for it and become blind to the arguments against it. Think about that. Bible history. Oh, we already talked about that one. Art and design. I love this quote by Maya Angelou. And also there's one about photography, I'll tell you. Maya Angelou said, you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. And that's true. And there's a good quote, I forget who it's by, but it's about photography. Photography is a love affair with life. It truly is. If you get into photography, it's such an amazing world. So I think that basically hits everything. And yeah, you click on one of these links. They're all affiliate links, and they get you where you need to go. I've tried to get you the best price on the things that I can. Not all of them obviously are affiliate because they're not all available on Amazon, but we earn a very small commission from those. It's only like a few cents, but it helps. I think we're pretty close to getting our first check from Amazon too, which would be incredible. It'd help pay for a couple of tanks of gas, which would be nice. So that being said, let's get back to Easter and what on earth is going on in Easter and in Acts 12:4. All right, so we've got some articles, like I said, collected together from different people that have defended the translation Easter, and I haven't read all of them recently, but I believe I've read all of them at some point in my life. And right now, at this point in my life, I have a serious question. If if it is necessary for Easter to be correct, which it is to maintain a King James only viewpoint, because the King James Bible has to be inerrant to do that. One of the big things that we try to do with this ministry and with this YouTube channel is ask King James onlyism the hard questions. See if it holds water. Does Herod's feeling toward when he was going to bring Peter out before the people to pick pickled peppers, is that important? Is it pivotal to our arguments about the translation Easter? Here's what Matthew Henry said. Now, guys, I've often regarded KJV defenders, or I've often heard KJV defenders argue that Herod would not regard Passover and wait for it to be over before having his Easter fun. However, Matthew Henry gives a possible reason why Herod wanted to wait until after all the Passover decorations were taken down. He does not mention the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Matthew Henry does not mention the Feast of Unleavened Bread. This is from his complete commentary on Christianity.com. He, Herod, would do this after Easter, meta to pasca, after the Passover. Certainly, so it ought to be read, for it is the same word as is always so rendered. So yes, obviously, but that part, take it or leave it, because it's always rendered that way, but it doesn't have to be rendered that way. There are two possible translations, at least. It depends on context, which is what we're talking about, and what most people talk about when they talk about translation Easter and defend it. And to insinuate the introduction or the introducing of a gospel feast instead of the Passover, when we have nothing in the New Testament of such a thing, is to mingle Judaism with our Christianity. So that's where he would say Easter, oh, he's identifying Easter not as a pagan holiday, he's identifying it as the Christian celebration of Christ's death, burial, and resurrection. So that's where his mind is. Herod would not condemn him till the Passover was over. Some think, for fear lest he should have such an interest among the people that they should demand the release of him, according to the custom of the feast. So, oh, I'm going to bring him out during Passover. Ha ha, look at this. Oh, well, we should probably release him. And he's just like, no, you guys are supposed to like this. So he wanted to wait. Or after the hurry of the feast was over, the town was empty, he would entertain them with Peter's public trial and execution. That's an interesting thought. I'd have to dwell on that one a little while longer. Thus was the plot laid, and both Herod and the people long to have the feast over, that they may gratify themselves with this barbarous entertainment. Personally, I would like to know why translators prior to the KJV rendered Pascha as Easter in other places beside Acts 12. I want to know. If Tyndale and Luther rendered parts that were legitimately just Passover as Easter, did they do it because they were Christianizing the Jewish celebration of Passover and calling it Easter because of its association with Christ within the context of where they were translating it as Easter? Or did they just kind of do it, arbitrarily? I don't know. Either way, it raises big questions in my mind. And I would also like to know if Luther and Tyndale actually translated Acts 12:4 as Easter as well. I'll have to look into that. We'll find out. What was their reasoning for translating Easter where they translated Easter? Does anyone know? And if you do, please reach out to me. There's a little link there that you can click. Go on. Click it, It's okay. Just do it. What do you think Pasca should be translated as in this context? Let me know. And the link to this will be in the description, but just so you're aware, it is BibleVersionConspiracy.com/Easter. So we've been going for a little while now. I'm not sure how long we've actually been recording, but because we had a long build up to this because of things. So I've got to align that. Let's have Easter dinner with Gail. You guys can read this short article that she wrote. It has to do with the etymology of the word Easter, east, or e in stir. Bringing it in from the Germanic languages, the son of righteousness, the sun, stuff like this, star out of Jacob, day star, rise in your hearts, all this, and defending it as a perfectly good word. It's used in the German Luther Bible and in the English Tyndale Bible in the 1500s. A perfectly good word identifying the resurrection of Jesus Christ. That's interesting to me. Now, please, I don't know what to do with these double periods here. I can't highlight them. There we go. I don't know what to do with that. With punctuation, if you ever find yourself hitting it twice, you're doing something wrong. And I don't like that. So anyways, but that's just me. So anyways, you guys can check that out. Read it on your own leisure. It'll be up on the website. Nor'easters, yes. Good point. And you can check out more of that from a little bit different perspective. Different wording, I believe. And may deal with some other elements of this that aren't dealt with in that article from solvechurchproblems.com. They're the ones that reposted that article. You can also check out her KJV dictionary, built-in KJV dictionary definition of Easter in her book, The Dictionary Inside the King James Bible, by Gail Riplinger, page 79 to 82. Co-conspirators, you're in luck. You're going to be getting in our shared library folder. You guys will be getting page scans of these pages so you guys can read it for yourself without having to buy the book. You're welcome. Sabbath or Sunday? Good question. This is a huge controversy these days, especially on Facebook. Is the Sabbath supposed to have changed to Sunday, or should we still be observing the Sabbath as Saturday? Is Sunday a pagan day and stuff like this? Personally, I found it interesting after doing all the study on the Triquetra a few weeks ago, that with all the stuff that Gail said about sun worship and this and that and the other thing, and relating it all to the Triquetra, her flipping and then being like, oh, no, it's okay to have this word. Easter's a perfectly good word. It's talking about Jesus. Well, the Triquetra, you said, Gail, are three sun arcs that are joined together. How come we can't think of it as a Christian symbol if you're allowed to think, or allowing us to think, about Easter in the King James Bible as being a good word? Because if it's supposed to be representing a pagan holiday, even then, the triquetra was supposed to be representing pagan concepts according to you. It's something to think about. Just because the New King James Bible has the triquetra on its cover doesn't mean that it's time for us to throw out the triquetra. And just because the King James Bible has the word Easter in it doesn't mean that it's time for us to embrace the word Easter. They are very similar in their histories. They're very similar in their origins. How come I don't think that kind of, I guess for lack of a better word, behavior, I don't think it's excusable. We should treat both of them exactly the same way, unless there's a reason not to. And apparently the only reason is because it's on the front of a New King James Bible, and we hate the New King James, so it's a pagan symbol. Don't ever use it. Don't even look at it. Oh, but the word Easter, oh, it's such a beautiful word. That's a picture of Jesus. Gail, I'm not trying to bash you if you watch this. Bryn, I'm not trying to bash your mother. Stephen, I'm not trying to bash your mother-in-law. But I'm sorry. That's a criticism that I have of how things are being handled by King James onlyism today. And Gail represents a large part of it. And part of the Bible version conspiracy that we do here is we try to expose the problems that we see on the people that are against King James onlyism, and we try to expose the problems that we see on the other side, on the King James only side of the auditorium. If there's a great answer to this, please tell me. Email me. Contact me at BibleVersionConspiracy.com. Let me know. Talk to me. That's my question. Why do we get to treat the triquetra as though it is an awful evil symbol? If Easter is a symbol of the same thing, sun worship, is it because, oh, it can also look like a 666 if you want it to? Oh, it's used by witches. Oh, isn't Easter Istar, if that's at all related to it, which evidence seems to indicate that it actually isn't. How are we supposed to tell this stuff? Are we supposed to just say everything that is pro King James, just accept it the way it is, find out any way to justify it, but if it has anything to do with a modern version, then throw it out no matter what? Is that our criteria? Because that would make me cry tears. Because it doesn't make any sense. Okay, anyways, it's my big rant. Glad that's over. So, did Jesus resurrect on a Sunday, the first day of the week, as it says in Mark 16:2 and 9? And read those carefully. It says that the women came in the morning. In the other Gospels, I believe it talks about them coming in the morning around the time of the rising of the sun. Just like Gail talks about at the top above this on the page. Because the sun is rising. Satan did not create the sun. He just led people to worship it instead of God. And then the star Sirius behind that, and then, just so much more. But anyways, we can talk about that some other time. So Christ in Mark 16 rises in the morning, and the women rise in the morning. There's nothing about Jesus Christ resurrecting at night. Nothing about him rising at 6 o'clock in the evening. Sam Gip. Nothing about that. Stop trying to add things to the Bible. I could maybe kind of see maybe Jesus dying on Wednesday or Thursday, like some people say, with the high Sabbath being a few extra days or what have you. Ken Johnson even kind of gets behind that. So I don't know. I still don't know what to think on that. I think the jury's still out on it. But the whole thing about him rising at night because it was the start of the next day, according to the Jewish tradition and stuff, no, makes no sense. An ancient epistle by a man who knew Jesus answers this question specifically. It's called the Ancient Epistle of Barnabas. I highly recommend you guys listen to the audiobook by Ken Johnson. It is a good translation written from the perspective of Barnabas being a conservative Christian, first century Christian, the context of the other church fathers, context of the New Testament, all this stuff goes as thoughts into this translation. J.B. Lightfoot may have let altogether too much Catholicism and Anglicism, or Anglicanism and church history get in the way of his translation, so I would recommend the one by Ken Johnson. But the one that I copy and paste in here is from Ken Johnson. Talk a little bit about the Epistle of Barnabas. It is not a canonical book, but it is, very likely to have been written by the Barnabas that we read about in the New Testament. Far from being among the Gnostic pseudepigrapha, sometime I think it's connected with the pseudepigrapha because not everybody thinks it was Barnabas, but it's not by any means Gnostic. There may be one Gnostic-y sounding edition that has to do with like a little bit of numerology, but that's like all that you can really see that even sniffs of Gnosticism, even a tad. So the Epistle of Barnabas reads very much like the book of Hebrews, leading some to believe that Barnabas could have written it as well. You can also see a 6-minute video called Q&A, a quick overview of the Epistle of Barnabas by Ken Johnson. There's a link right there. The links here and here are going to take you to the Wikipedia article, I believe. And then this one, I believe, takes you to the full text of Barnabas. Some would have us believe that Barnabas is anti-Semitic. After listening to the audiobook carefully, I can affirm that it is not the case. The book is just as anti-Semitic as the book of Hebrews is. It is not anti-Semitic, like it's not a rant against the Jews and stuff like this, which would cause some people to see Gnostic influence in it. But it doesn't seem any more anti-Jewish than anything else in the New Testament, for crying out loud. Some, like Gail Riplinger, would also have us believe that it teaches the doctrine of Mormonism that Satan and Christ are equal as brothers. You can see that on New Age Bible Versions, page 637, which is the only chart that deals with Barnabas. There's almost 20 pages about the Shepherd of Hermas, 1 page on Barnabas. To my knowledge, Gail is the only author to suggest a Mormon connection, and the reason that she does that is because Lightfoot capitalizes the word Lord when it pertains to deity. He does not use it in connection with people that are human. So when he says, like the Bible says, about Satan being the god of this world, which is awful, but we could also say that God is the ruler of the whole world, we're not saying that God is Satan. We're saying that God has authority over Satan, but he's given Satan so much of this world that that's why we have a lot of these problems. And he gave it to him because of our own wickedness. The whole world lieth in wickedness, like the Bible says. So, to support this Mormon connection, Gail capitalizes she capitalizes on the capitalization of the word Lord in Barnabas 18:2, where it says basically that God is the ruler of heaven and good stuff, and Satan he's the Lord of, the universe and, heaven and stuff like this, and Satan is the Lord of this wicked fallen world. So he capitalizes the word Lord because obviously it's contrasting the deity here and the deity there. So capitalize the word Lord. You're not saying that Satan is God. In the early editions of New Age Bible versions, it even said, all it said was just Satan ... is Lord. And I read that and I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe the epistle of Barnabas is like death metal lyrics. It wasn't. We'll talk more about that when I'm ready. She also mentions J.B. Lightfoot's statement that the epistle is, quote, an uncompromising antagonist of Judaism, but she fails to give any examples of how it's antagonist to Judaism. It seems this is because there are more... Okay, it seems that this is because it is no more antagonistic than the rest of the New Testament. A few years ago, I discovered, thanks to Ken Johnson's YouTube channel, that Barnabas had something very interesting to say about why Christians don't observe Saturday. That is the seventh day, but rather Sunday, the eighth day. Barnabas 15:1. Moreover, concerning the Sabbath, likewise, it is written in the 10 words. Now, some of these quotations aren't necessarily from the Bible. Ken Johnson, this is one reason why I like his translation, which is up there somewhere. Ah, no, it's not. It's right here. Right there. The Epistle of Barnabas. He gives notes in here about where, like he references scripture. He gives the actual verse number and everything. And if it's unknown, he puts it's unknown. Moreover, concerning the Sabbath, likewise, it is written in the 10 words in which he spake to Moses face to face on Mount Sinai, and ye shall hallow the Sabbath of the Lord with pure hands and with a pure heart. And in another place he saith, if my sons observe the Sabbath, then I will bestow my mercy upon them. Notice the word my is capitalized. When it refers to deity, Lightfoot capitalizes. If he translates the active one, he capitalizes it, not because he's saying that I worship he who is called the active one. He's not saying that. He capitalizes the word he, for crying out loud. He capitalizes the phrase he who, because it's referring to deity. He capitalizes the word my when God refers to himself. And Satan in that verse in Barnabas 18:2 is being referred to as the deity of wickedness. It's not saying that he's God. Anyways, if the Sabbath capitalized, it's a proper name. Of the Sabbath he speaketh in the beginning of the creation, and God made the works of his hands in 6 days, and he ended on the seventh day and rested on it, and he hallowed it. Barnabas 15:4. Give heed, children, what this meaneth. He ended in 6 days. He meaneth this, that in 6,000 years the Lord shall bring all things to an end. For the day with him signifieth 1,000 years. Now, this is a very old interpretation of that passage. Very old. This dates back at least into the 1st or possibly the 2nd century. So if you've heard that interpretation, this is probably where it came from originally. This signifieth 1,000 years, and this He himself beareth me witness, saying, Behold, the day of the Lord shall be as 1,000 years. Therefore, children, in 6 days, that is, in 6,000 years, everything shall come to an end. So you've heard that whole idea? Guess where you got it from? The Epistle of Barnabas. Gail didn't say anything about that. Weird. And also, just for your information, there's a lot of things in the Epistle of Barnabas that she didn't mention because the Epistle of Barnabas is very biblical. It's a good-sized book, and she was only able to give you a page of issues because there aren't really any issues. We'll talk about it later. Barnabas 6:5. Yea, and furthermore, he saith, Thou shalt hallow with pure hands and with a pure heart. If therefore a man is able now to hallow the day which God hallowed, though he be pure in heart, we have gone utterly astray. Barnabas 5:7. But if after all then, and not till then, shall we truly rest and hallow it, when we shall ourselves be able to do so after being justified and receiving the promise, when iniquity is no more, and all things have been made new by the Lord, we shall be able to hallow it then, because we ourselves shall have been hallowed first. Finally, he saith to them, Your new moons and your Sabbaths I cannot away with. Ye see what he is meaning. It is not your present Sabbaths that are acceptable unto me, but the Sabbath which I have made, in the which, when I have set all things at rest, I will make the beginning of the 8th day, which is the beginning of another world. Wherefore also we keep the 8th day for rejoicing, in the which Jesus rose from the dead, and having been manifested, ascend into heaven. So it's worded a little bit obscurely. This is why I recommend the audiobook by Ken Johnson. But basically what he's saying is that we keep the 8th day because we're looking forward to the rest that comes after the 7th day, eternity. We're looking forward to that because Christ rose on the 8th day. And we were perfected because of the 8th day. There's also a good deal of controversy about when Christ died, and we're not going to weigh in on that controversy right now. Is Easter pagan? Got some good resources here for you guys to check out. There's a video by Inspiring Philosophy, which he did, which is fairly good. I'm not sure that he necessarily has that great of a presentation because he's very critical sometimes of Alexander Hislop, even though Alexander Hislop did document a lot of the stuff that he wrote. Michael Jones talks like he didn't document any of it. He just made up all the stuff off the top of his head. And he seems to just kind of say that because that's what scholars that he's impressed by says, which is, I'm not sure. It seems kind of sad. Michael, if you're out there, contact me. Point me in the direction of what I should be looking at. Let me know. Because I think it's kind of an unfair treatment of poor Alexander there. Anywho, he's got another good one, a good playlist of 7 videos on the resurrection of Jesus. There's an introduction, and then there's a longer 45-minute video, which is pretty good. I believe I watched that last year. Easter's pagan ancient origins, or where were they pagan? Both conservative Protestant and highly respected researchers, but they came to 2 very different conclusions. There's Pan-Babylonianism over here with Hislop's 2 Babylons, basically saying that Nimrod started all this stuff. BibleFacts.org, Noah and his sons started all of it. And I think that that one actually has a more balanced opinion of where things actually started. But then with the traditions, I think it kind of falls off a little bit, the ancient origins of modern holidays, because it's like Ken Johnson isn't able to really admit that a lot of different traditions may have actually pagan roots and originated in paganism. But then again, did the tradition go back to a more biblical origin? And he kind of tries to trace those sometimes in his treatments. It's a pretty fascinating book. So I know Mrs. Ripplinger recommends Hislop's Two Babylons very highly. If you don't have the ancient origins of modern holidays, you're going to want to get that one. If you have Hislop's Two Babylons, you also need ancient origins of modern holidays. And there's a link here to a historical treatise of the travels of Noah in Europe, which also exposes not Nimrod, but Ham as being the origin of evil on this side, the flood. The resurrection. 2-minute case for the resurrection with Dr. Lane Craig. And you can see a longer presentation of him right there on that link below, called Did the Resurrection Really Happen? And then there's another 5-minute video, Christianity Proved in 5 Minutes by Gary Habermas. He's got some really good stuff. Lots of books out too. I'll try to link those up in this page once I develop it further. And then there's a longer, another longer interview that he has with Cameron Bertuzzi of Capturing Christianity. And there's a link to that. This historian has new evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. I forgot to say it, but remember how I tell you guys, stick around because it's going to get crazy? Here's where it gets crazy. Gospel according to vampires. The one person that's not watching it right now is going to be sad because they just tuned out just before we got to the crazy part. So Bill Schneblin was the average Catholic kid out trick-or-treating one night until he saw something paranormal in the sky that would change the course of his life. As a grown man, he became part of, after so many other things, not enough time to get into them, he became part of something that claimed to be the ancient vampire cult. And it claimed to be based around the teachings of the Apostle John. Reason for this, to my understanding, is because of John 6, where it talks about them drinking Christ's blood and eating his flesh. And John 11, where it talks about Lazarus being resurrected, or, as they would put it, made undead. His mentors in this cult made 4 chilling claims. The first one is that Lazarus was the first vampire because Jesus rose him from the dead. But that's not true because there were people that were risen from the dead before that. So I believe even Jesus's other resurrections took place before that. In the Old Testament, there were some resurrections as well with Elijah and such. Lazarus was the first vampire. Not so. But also, no. You'll see the fallacy of that in a sec when we get to number 4. Jesus did rise from the dead because he was a vampire. This is where I think we as Christians have failed a little bit on our defense of the resurrection. Because we're all in like Andy Stanley. If the resurrection happened, then Christianity is true. We don't necessarily need the Bible. If the resurrection happened, that just proves that Jesus rose from the dead. That's all that it proves. It doesn't prove that Christianity is correct. It doesn't prove that the claims of the Bible are correct. It proves that he rose from the dead. And a vampire or somebody part of this vampire cult is just going to be like, yeah, obviously he rose from the dead. because he was one of us. So when we're defending the resurrection, passionately, wholeheartedly, all this, let's bear in mind. Sorry. Let's bear this in mind. And let's kick the vampire dog as well while we're making this defense. Because there's more people out there that think that way than you might imagine. The typos here. Please note, it is not enough, not I snot, sorry. It is not enough to prove the resurrection happened. Maybe the more you prove it, the more it reinforces someone's dark beliefs. Throughout the Dark Ages, here's chilling claim number 3. Throughout the Dark Ages, this is what his mentors in this cult taught him. They said that a vampire priest, or what they referred to as a Nosferatic priest, which I believe is like a traditional name in, Hungary, Bulgaria, Transylvania, that area, the Nosferatu, or the undead. A Nosferatic priest lay concealed within the altar at the front of Roman Catholic cathedrals. That thing that I believe, if I remember my Catholicism practice enough, that altar is what they put the monstrance upon. Monstrance. So apparently there was a Nosferatic priest inside of it. So watch out for that emphasis sometimes on John Paul II. Huh? John is very often connected with the literal interpretation of Scripture. He's got a lot of good stuff in the New Testament, but the Gnostics have taken him and just been bad. They've actually taken each of the apostles and they've each started their own stream of something according to them. We'll get into that at some point. Apparently Judas founded Satanism, so crazy stuff. So it's interesting, and we'll get into it at some point. I just need more information. So the vampire priest lay concealed within the altar in the front of Roman Catholic cathedrals or churches, I would assume. I hope this isn't true, but if such a cult existed then, it would not be inconsistent with, like I mentioned, the Gnostic origins of Roman Catholicism and Malachi Martin's Windswept House. It would not be inconsistent with either of those books. And this is the fourth chilling claim, that if Bill followed the prescribed ceremonial rituals, he could die and be raised a vampire as well. Bill's magical plans were foiled when a Christian began praying for him in the name of Jesus, the one that he thought was an ancient vampire. Since then, Bill has served the true risen Christ after losing his health, his job, his magical capabilities, got thrown into Mormonism, started reading the Bible, got deeply convicted, left all of it behind, and he's been serving the true risen Savior through his ministry with oneaccord.org. And I haven't linked that up. I'm sorry, I'll have to add that link. And his YouTube channel. He's been doing it for decades. You can view more of his testimony in Lucifer Dethroned, which is this book right here. There's a link for it in the library. Links in the description below. The episode Former Luciferian, Bill Schneblin. That's with the confessionals with Tony Merkel. The Also a video that he did for the Prophecy Club called Vampires and Werewolves. That runs an hour and 18 minutes. And you can also see our card ministry page on the X Vampire. We're working to automate that page so that you guys can order cards yourself, because that's the recommendation that I've come in contact with over the last week, is to automate the side thing and focus on the main thing. And right now the main thing is our YouTube channel right here, the Bible Version Conspiracy. So card carrying Christians is going to be automated the best that I can so that it can kind of self-sustain, and we'll keep track of it that way. And if you guys want to contact me, reach out, what have you, I read all the comments. If you fill in this form right here, I get an email sent directly to me. I may not respond to all of them, but I will see all of them. And I should be able to respond. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, what have you. I don't know if there's any questions or comments or anything that I missed that our co-conspirators would like me to deal with. But if there is, I would be more than happy to see that comment. If you guys are interested, let me get rid of this real quick. Like I've said before, if you're interested in joining us for these live recordings, we have a little bit of time before this where you see all the bumps and bruises and stuff, trying to get all this technology and stuff set up sometimes. And then we have an after show that sometimes can run just as long as this episode. You guys can join us for that. Engage with me, engage with the other co-conspirators, and just have fun. Learn stuff. We give you guys some extra resources. Hopefully, this is in the future, we're going to be making a secret stream for co-conspirators only, so you guys can get in on that. So that'd be basically extra episodes. Direct contact with me as a co-conspirator through the Buy Me a Coffee app, and being able to watch these live. Having that connection. And there's other benefits which you guys can check out. Link in the description to buymeacoffee.com/Joseph Armstrong. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate your patience. I appreciate your listening ear. And I'll see you next time. I'm looking forward to talking to you soon. Have a good day. And don't forget to read that King James Bible of yours this Easter season. Like the devil's after it, because he is. And there truly is a Bible version conspiracy. Have a good night. Talk soon.